following are the words of Noel DiGirolamo, president of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers are already being targeted for assassination. Releasing their personal information to criminals will only further endanger them. Stand with law enforcement. Defend the police.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Schiliro on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back to our Wednesday edition. I'm Tom Schiliro. You're listening to Your Island with Tom Schiliro here on 103.9 LI News Radio. In the studio with us is one of our senior contributors now. Been here quite a bit of time, is Lisa Navarro. She comes in once every other week talking about issues relating to our schools, relating to child behavior issues, just a whole eclectic point of view on a lot of different issues. And she's here today. But today is a big story. As of, I think it was August 7th, the governor said, okay, school districts, you can open. But there's all sorts of different diverse ways in which this can be done. We're seeing things like virtual learning. We're seeing things like part-time learning, part-time in the schools, out of the schools, leading up 12 kids in a classroom, 6-foot social distancing. I mean, it's very, very complicated in terms of if you were a school administrator, how do you want to put this thing together? So it becomes very, very difficult. Tim just writes in, my daughter is sending her 2 kids to school 2 days a week, virtual live class the rest. They want to go to school again in capital letters, Tim writes. Hands-on learning is the best way to teach most of the kids. This is what I want to talk about today. I want to see what the folks think about this. 631-451-1039. Lisa Navarro, start us off. I'm telling you, we're going to have a hot discussion for the next hour.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, Tom. Yeah, I think actually, Tim, we spoke last time, Tim. I think he called in.
Yes, he did.
And yes, so then now people are really beginning to hear about what their districts are providing for their communities, and it varies from district to district. We have A days, B days, A weeks, B weeks. We've got 2 days on, 3 days off. It's absolutely incredible, and depending on what district that you live in, really seems to be dictating how you feel about going back to school full-time or part-time.
Okay, we're going to take your call, 631-451-1039. Lisa, could I simplify it for a second, just for a second, and see your thoughts, and then we're going to get to Vinny from Bayport. Is it come down to effective learning versus health and safety? Is it that simplistic? Or am I too simplistic?
You also have the social emotional component in there, and the child development emotionally with their mental health status too. So you have the learning, the mental health status of the children and that growth and development, as well as the health and safety regarding the COVID pandemic.
So, and there are people out there that are saying that we're overthinking this. Stop with this coronavirus. Just take some of your tertiary precautions, put the kids back in school, and let's go to normal. But I want to say this for a second. Where we are at today, and I hate to say this, as a nation, is a lot worse than where we were in late March in terms of number of cases, number of hot spots, and so on. We have a full security here, or we have a security in New York State, and we are talking about Long Island schools. But that doesn't mean to say that this virus cannot reattack again. Again, I'm raising this. These are not specific personal points of view on my part, but we are not out of this thing. And in some cases, we're in a worse position than we were when the schools were first closed late March.
Just before I got here, I saw on the news Sunset Park in Brooklyn. Are you familiar where that is?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they have a spike. Yeah. A big spike, I think over 6%. And so that's what they're afraid of, opening too fast. And, that's why they're trying to keep the cohorts so that way they could track what children have been with who and really containing things as tightly as they can, which unfortunately, I guess is a necessity.
What Tim is saying, I'm going to agree with him. In big letters, they want to go to school again. That's what the kids are saying, okay? Yeah. And I certainly don't blame them. I mean, to sit home all those times. I've had parents and grandparents who were saying, Tom, we're going crazy, all of this, again, to get that in there. But again, how do we be safe? Or is this a false narrative? I hate to even raise that because a lot of people coming back to me and saying this whole thing is nonsense. This thing, we can go back to school. We're not going to see the sky is falling type of situation that may take place. 631-451-1039. Vinny from Bayport. Go ahead, Vinny.
Yeah, before I get to my point, yeah, it is nonsense. It's a fallacy. I mean, there are countries, and you can read about it if the media wasn't so corrupt. Sweden, Norway have sent their kids back to school. In fact, in a lot of countries, they never stopped going to school. I mean, it's ridiculous. I read, and God bless the media, this 7-year-old in Georgia who died of COVID. That was a lie. He didn't die of COVID. He slipped in the bathroom, hit his head, and he had a seizure, and the coroner, during the autopsy, uncovered the fact that he had COVID in his body. He was asymptomatic.
Right.
So the media tells us that he died of COVID. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the other thing real quick is if we had an obesity epidemic prior to the quarantine, especially with respect to the children, where are we at now?
Yeah.
What a nightmare. And my point is, if you don't mind, and Lisa, welcome to the program. It's a great, great program.
Thank you, Vinny.
My point is, again, with the media, America endured their worst or our worst mass shooting this year. Okay? It happened in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where 21 African Americans were shot at a picnic in Washington, D.C. But please tell me how this is not news, because I haven't seen it anywhere.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you, too. That's news to me, too, what you're saying. I'm usually on top of all these things, and I'm going to do some research into that. I'm just not aware of anything like. When did that occur?
Saturday afternoon in Washington, D.C., there was a picnic. Some guy opened fire on, and they were all African Americans.
Yeah,
so you would think the Black Lives Matter media would report this.
Yeah, well, we'll look into that.
A dead body isn't useful unless it's, it just drives me crazy, Tom.
Right. Well, again, we're seeing the carnage in New York City and Detroit and Louisville and Chicago and so on. And yet that literally goes, if it wasn't for the New York Post, you wouldn't be able to see those headlines anywhere. And so we're seeing that. Get Lisa.
And undoubtedly, the media has a huge impact and influence on how people feel. I mean, even look at the storm. We weren't even prepared for the storm because we were too busy talking about other topics. However, with this, the fact and reality is that there are so many parents who, on the other side, are really afraid to bring their kids and allow their children to go to school. They want the option for full-time homeschool, virtual at home.
So you're hearing that argument.
Yes.
Again, this is what the issues that I want to take up. Vinny, any final thoughts, Vinny?
Well, virtual in-home school. Well, what do you do when your electric is out?
That's a good point. Well, that's it. You're right. You're right about all of that. And to me, I'm seeing more of a rejection. I want to discuss that with Lisa. I'm seeing more of a rejection of that virtual schooling. I'm seeing a rejection of that because they tried it in March and April and May and tried to take us up to graduation. And for the most part, this is what took place. People were upset about it. They say it didn't work. People in my own family were calling me and say, Tom, we hate this. I can't do this.
People are split. They're split. I was shocked at the comments that I was hearing, even during one live Board of Ed meeting that was being aired virtually. And you know how you can make those comments. And so many parents want their kids home.
They want them home.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, it's split. It depends on who you talk to.
I just have one more point.
Sure.
And the crazy thing is, Lisa, aren't the child care places, aren't they open?
As far as I know, some of them are open. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I can send my kid to a child care place, but I can't send them to school.
It's very confusing times. And you know what, Vinny? I think that time is going to tell. It is what it is in terms of the plans at this point, although some things might change. And I think that really, once we get into September, all we need is 1 or 2 children in a school that have they catch COVID and we're shut down. So it's going to unravel. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Good luck, guys.
Hopefully a successful school year in terms of experimenting this way, because we don't want to see an epidemic between our students and our teachers.
That's
and so
right.
on. Thank you so much, Vinny. 631-451-1039. Let's see, John over there in Ronkonkoma. John, what say you?
Hey, guys, I'll try to make a couple of quick points real quick. So in the real world, when you pay for a service and that service isn't provided, it's called fraud.
Yes.
But in make-believe land, it's called the public sector employee.
Okay.
We're paying for the services now more because our budget's passed for the same services we were supposed to be getting before COVID, and we're not getting anything close to it yet. We're still being billed.
Yes.
Secondly, why are the teachers thinking they're only exposed to this virus when they're at school? period. And they don't go to the supermarket. They're not hanging out with their buddies. Third of all, after you've done all of the social distancing in schools, all the masks, no buses, everybody's doing the right thing, the kids go home and they hang out with each other. You can't stop it. So we're just going in circles here, but yet we're still getting the bill.
The schools are still operating and when our budget's passed. Yeah. You raise a good point about that. I know a few people have done the same thing.
We're paying for,
but they're hurting. I mean, they are cutting coordinator positions to be.
But how come they're not giving John from Ronkonkoma his money back?
There isn't any money to give back, as they have to abide by all these safety protocols just to open the doors.
Been laid off. Yeah. Nobody's been laid off.
Oh no, there's been a lot of people accessed.
Employment.
Yeah.
My bus drivers haven't even been laid off yet. They're still being paid.
The bus drivers, really? Yeah.
What do you do, John?
We own.
Yeah.
What do I do for a living?
Yes. You said you're bus drivers, so I wasn't sure what you meant.
No,
I don't think John was.
He's school district.
There's bus drivers in the school district.
Okay.
Owns the buses. We own our buses. We own our. We
gotcha.
pay our drivers.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
No, and they're still. It's not like Suffolk Transportation where they all got laid off.
Yeah. Okay.
Transport or whatever.
Right. Okay. I got you.
We're still paying them.
Yeah.
So we're paying for a service we ain't getting it, and in the real world, that doesn't happen. It's called fraud.
Yeah. Well, in the private sector, of course, that would never happen. They ended up applying for the PPP laws.
We would have legal recourse.
Yeah.
So when are we going to get? I mean, we're paying for this since what, February?
Yeah. The difficulty here is that no one's really talking about that. They're talking about opening the schools and trying to see what's the best and safe way to do it so people don't get this damn virus. But no one's talking about the fiscal end of it.
You can't stop it.
Yeah.
The teachers are acting like they're only exposed when they go to school. It makes no sense. So, give me back my money if you're not going to do the job, and then let me take my kid and put him wherever if I decide. If a teacher doesn't want to go back to school, go on unemployment. And let somebody go to school who wants to do the job. If a parent doesn't want to send their school, that's on them. They're paying the taxes.
Well, they are now. Some teachers are applying for leaves of absences, getting doctor's notes in terms of if they have some kind of health issue or ailment condition.
You can't do that in the real world. You can't do that in the private sector. You can't tell the company, "Oh, I'm going to go on a leave of absence because I'm scared of COVID." You can't do that in the real world.
Wow.
The taxpayers are just getting the bill for all.
Yeah. So some people would argue in the public sector, obviously, there's no profit motive. In the private sector there is. So
that's the problem. It's never run like a business.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's not.
Take, give to those people, and we get stuck with the bill every time. And now we're paying even more.
Right.
Why did we even have a budget at this time? We should have, and the whole budget thing is a fraud anyway. Yeah. It makes no sense. The school budget votes. Why
at some point,
my name on my tax bill? Why does a 18-year-old get to vote on a school budget? He doesn't have any skin in the game. My name's the only name on my tax bill.
Yeah.
Should be one vote per tax bill.
Or again, just limit votes on a school district to people who pay the taxes, which would be a property owner, and that would be pretty much it. All right, John. Good point. I want to get to other points.
Thanks,
631. Yeah, you're welcome. 631-451-1039. Give us a call. Nelson calling back. Hey, Nelson, what do you say?
I say homeschooling your kids is making parents realize why some animals eat their young.
All right. Okay. Should the kids go back to school or not, Nelson? What do you think?
Send them back to school. This is ridiculous.
Send them back.
Now, I'm curious as to how many teachers were out there protesting during these Black Lives Matter movements, because a lot of them are already radically on the left. And you know what? They want your kids, the state and everybody wants your kids back in school. They don't want you to homeschool them because they want to indoctrinate them. They don't want to give you freedom of choice. If I had kids, I would send them back to school. That was still school age. I would send them back to school.
But how about with some precautions there? Would you make your son or daughter wear a mask or make sure that they did?
No, because you know what? What am I going to make them wear? A metal cage when they walk out in the street? They can get hit by a car? You got to live your life. We're based on freedom and free movement and a free society.
It's kind of like we have, no traffic lights and a lot of traffic. It's the streets are a little different these days.
I still think this coronavirus, at this stage of the game, for us to say that it's kind of not real is a little too late. So.
It's a little too late. Yeah, it is. Exactly.
So,
with the traffic light, you still have free movement to move about and go about where you want to. If you disobey the traffic light, you might get hit by a car.
All right, we're going to try to come up with during the course of this hour, I want to come up with really what should be done or what we all should be done or come to a common sense consensus on what's going on out there. Nelson, thanks for the phone call, 631-451-1039. Again, back to you, Lisa. We're talking about virtual learning. We're talking about being in school 2 days a week, 3 days a week, school district by school district, maybe looking at the number of coronavirus cases in a specific geographic area here in Suffolk County, maybe monitoring to that way. Is there any real answer to this? The governor said, I'll leave it up to you guys. He's leaving it up to the 100. I think there's 150 school districts in National Suffolk County. Whether I got that, no, maybe 62. I don't know. Whatever the number is, there's a lot of school districts and there's a lot of ways in which to deal with this. And I'm seeing people write in and they're saying that their district said 2 days a week and it's done by the alphabet, whatever your last name begins, and then coming up with classrooms that only hold 12 people. I don't know what's the effectiveness here. And then let's keep this in mind. If they start to do such a hodgepodge answer to this, is it even worth it? Are kids learning? I mean, that's the bottom line. I keep saying effective learning.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to start shifting a little bit because just as you and I had began this conversation today, it's very heated. People are so frustrated. We don't have all the answers yet. We haven't re-entered school yet. So right now, the district has plans. Hopefully, they will be able to open when September rolls around. But I think we need to now start looking at how to make best of what we have. And I have some suggestions for that.
Okay. And well, I want to take that up, but right now we have many people know Sanjay Gupta from CNN, and he's got, I think, 3 kids, and he's saying he's not sending his kids back to school. He's not going to do that. And we've got a 2-minute clip from him. I want to play that. When we get back from our break, though, Lisa, I want to explore, exactly what you're saying, and I want to try to put this in a very simple way on the way in which school districts can move forward with this and how important this is. Let's remember, too, there's an economic consideration here that parents need childcare. Schools have always been the childcare. It's always worked that way. Parents are working. People work these days. Men and women work. Husband and wife work. We have 2 family earners. So we've got to make sure that it works to the optimum. And that's where the purposes of school. But let's see what Sanjay Gupta has to say.
So I have 3 girls going into 10th grade, 8th grade, and 6th grade. So as you might imagine, what's going to happen this fall is topic number 1 in our household. What's going to happen with schools? The American Academy of Pediatrics, they've been very clear on this. They say kids physically in school is key to their development. But we also know that case numbers continue to rise across the country. It's still not entirely clear just how transmissible, especially young kids are. We know they're less likely to get sick, but how likely are they to contribute to the spread? We also know for sure that schools are going to have to do everything they can to try and keep kids safe. So it's going to look a lot different when you get to school this year. Now, if there's anything we know about this virus, it's that it doesn't like masks, so those are going to be required in all schools, and it doesn't like distance. So you see here, the desks and the teachers area all 6 feet apart. Well aware that a lot of school districts can't possibly do this. All the desks facing in the same direction. If there's any virus in the area, you want it going in one direction as opposed to mixing. Also, there's this idea of cohorting. That means that the same students would be together all day long. Less spread, less mixing that way. And also, if somebody does get sick, it's easier to contact trace. Another thing schools are going to have to think about, trying to reduce areas where children will congregate. Think about staggered start times, for example, rotating classrooms, one-way hallways, and possibly even getting rid of common locker areas. And another thing schools might start doing is having outdoor classrooms, or at least opening the windows to improve the ventilation in indoor classrooms. At the end of the day, every family is going to have to look at the risks and the rewards of sending their kids back to school. Also, pay attention to what's happening in your community. Is the virus increasing or is it decreasing? That may play a factor in your decision. And finally, use the rest of the summer to get your kids used to wearing masks, which they're going to have to do, and of course, washing their hands as much as possible.
Okay, so he put about 5 or 6 together. Schools have to do this. He's not sending his kids school. He analyzed that. He basically said that. He also quoted the American Academy of Pediatrics, said that students should be in school. Now, pediatricians are doctors. They're doctors for the children. That you would think that they would have a little bit of knowledge or something like that. Comment on what he's saying.
Well, I think that it's actually very important to take these measures. And like I said, there's a lot of hesitancy there. And when we're looking at the data, which again could be very confusing because a lot of people are doubtful of the integrity of the data, it's still existing and it's still a threat to many people in their mind, physically and mentally. So I think what he's saying is we need to take these precautions, we need to follow these guidelines, and we need to minimize risk as much as possible.
And then the governor said about a hybrid type of opening. And Lauren just writes in on our Facebook page, if parents have the option to keep their kids home completely, then the opposite should also be allowed. If parents want their children full-time in school, that should also be allowed. Again, can we do that? Is that something that can be done?
No.
When we get back from break, we'll take up on Lauren's point. I'm Tom Schiliro with Lisa Navarro, Child Behavior Consulting. We'll be right back.